It's time for the unofficial 40. Soonerscoop.com's very official recruiting podcast featuring Soonerscoop.com recruiting publisher Josh McCuistion. Get your recruiting fix from the leader in Sooner recruiting. It's the unofficial 40 with your hosts, Soonerscoop.com publishers Carrie Murdoch and Josh McCuistion.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It is another episode of the unofficial 40 here at Soonerscoop.com, and we joined by the whole crew once again, and Josh McCuistion is joining us from his home base. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. It's NFL Combine time, so this is pretty much my Christmas.
You get to judge whether or not anybody knows what they're talking about, basically. I got to think that's more what it is for you.
Yes.
Than it is actual players and who looks good now. You just want to judge people.
Yeah.
Who evaluate
I'm here to cast
people.
judgment on everybody and their evaluations. Exactly.
Eddie Radosevich is here. I don't have any bone to pick with him this week. Any new truther theories come out for you this week, Eddie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did
you guys?
I did see.
Did you guys get my direct message?
Eddie Radosevich.
I sent
that
the guys.
Stevie Wonder is going to unleash some information on the world about his site.
Unbelievable. Do you know how vindicating that will be the day that he admits that he's been able to see this entire time?
I guess it'd kind of be like if they got your order right at a restaurant.
It will feel really, really good.
I mean, I don't know that you haven't been like picketing or anything.
No, but
how much energy have you really expended trying to convince the world that he can see?
Just here and there, but I mean, it will feel good the day that it comes out that he's been lying this entire time.
Eddie also very excited because David Ross is a new member of the Dancing with the Stars cast.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming, but it's just another championship to win.
Will you really
Come on, we know what Eddie's
one?
really excited about, and it's more of Eddie's hateful side. Let's get this out there.
On what?
I'm intrigued.
Oh, come on, Eddie. He's down. He's down for a month.
Kevin Durant.
And I know you wanted more, but I know you're not displeased.
It wasn't. Yeah, I wanted more. I definitely like going to bed on Tuesday or Wednesday night. It was like it's finally happened. I went to bed. Mark Stein had just reported that they were going to sign Matt Barnes. It was looking like it was going to be a year-long thing, and it was kind of set up for failure to wake up and realize that it's only going to be a couple months, a month, a couple weeks.
Well, they'll reevaluate after 4 weeks.
That's the thing.
That doesn't mean he's going to play after 4 weeks.
I just hope that. And then yesterday I saw that he landed in Oakland and was being wheelchaired.
Helicopters flying above.
What a wuss. Hopefully the rehab has a couple setbacks, and we look at a year from now that he's still trying to get back.
Tonight is the night I really hate about the NBA. Sorry, I had to check my email. Tonight's the night I really hate about the NBA.
9:30 tip-off?
West Coast TNT national game. Good God.
That game will be over at 11:50.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
If it could be over by midnight, I could live with that.
Yeah, sometimes those games go really long.
Just know that if overtime happens, I'll have to buy a new TV tomorrow probably. Joe Duvall is here as well. Joe, very excited because camp season is getting ready to start. He's going to have... Did you go to Pro Day last year, Joe?
No, I didn't go last year. I went the year before for Sooner Vision.
Okay.
He's over there, yeah.
So Joe will be taking in OU's Pro Day, which is getting ready to come up on Wednesday as you're listening to this podcast.
Pro Day is like... It's the most overhyped kind of fun day that they have out there. Like it there's parts of it that suck, but there's also parts of it that are really, really cool to say, yeah, I was there and this is what happened.
Sam Bradford's Pro Day was the best Pro Day that's ever been.
Pretty cool. That was like the first time too that it was like they set up. Remember how they set it up to where it's like you could not get close on the field. It was like that was the first
barriers,
year. Yeah, the barriers and everything like that.
That had everybody gushing afterwards. I don't think I ever remember scouts coming out of a pro day workout more congratulatory about a guy just saying, okay, well this guy's the number one pick. We got it after this, and it's starting to. If you think about it, it's almost crazy because he's just throwing against air. You're just watching a guy throw to a guy against air. So it is kind of that fun aspect of people make these huge decisions sometimes on these things, and I think you get cool stories that come out of this too. I remember the Malcolm Kelly kind of had the controversy right about the pro day about he complained about the turf or something like that.
Oh, that was awesome.
So I think there's always some kind of.
No, he was
kind of fun
mad
drama.
because he wanted to run it on the Mosier indoor surface, and then they switched it and made it on the Everest indoor, which is slower. And he didn't run a great time, and he flipped out. And
as far as
still, I mean, the relationship I would say between Bob Stoops and Malcolm Kelly is still not great to this day because of that.
you think he's going to be negative recruiting down at Houston? He's a GA. I guess he can't recruit. But
Yeah.
I would argue with
funny.
OU in general. I think there's kind of a Malcolm Kelly for how good he was as a receiver at OU and for his quarterbacks and everything. People don't think of him in that positive a light as they do with some of the other really good receivers from the Stoops era, and I think a lot of it stems from that kind of how he left. And went
I don't
to the
know.
draft.
He has left the most legendary YouTube rap
That's
of
true.
all time.
That's
Yeah.
redemption.
And he's still, I mean, you still see, I think it was
Laquan Treadwell loved rapping that before he took the bags of money that Ole Miss gave him.
CeeDee Lamb said that still his favorite player of all time.
You get guys that aren't even looking at OU that retweet that video. Guys that are like down to SC in Florida or something will talk about that video and how awesome that is.
It's
Look,
underrated.
Malcolm was. I'll say this: Malcolm was one of my favorite guys that's ever played at Oklahoma. He's a good dude, and it has always bothered me what that did, and that he never really mended fences with Bob over it. And I've actually tried to talk to him about it before, and I think he's literally. It's kind of, we've talked about this a lot. It was that time when Bob was a little bit more stern. He wasn't quite as accessible. And I think Malcolm's probably a little scared of Bob to just man up and say, hey, what I did was wrong, and I apologize. Because I don't think Bob holds a grudge against him, but they've just never, I don't know how we got off on this tangent, but they've never really, I don't think they've properly reconciled.
Pro Day's passed.
Pro Day.
It will be it'll be really interesting come Wednesday to see. I would think that all 32 teams are going to be represented. Even in down years, they're usually all represented. And then B, Joe Mixon will obviously be the biggest story of the week.
It's going to be huge, and you've had two teams now that I've seen, the Lions and the Chiefs, have both come out against this combine policy of not allowing anyone to compete or be there that has had a violent past or something in their past that's been violent. The Zamora kid from Baylor, the receiver, that was an awful video to watch, beating his dog. Of course, Joe Mixon, Chad Kelly was uninvited. And I've said this all week. I don't have any faith in Mixon's agent, and I don't have any faith that he'd do something smart, but I would do like Chad Kelly's doing and just go down there, get a hotel, get a suite somewhere in a hotel, and tell teams, hey, I'm going to be here all day if you guys want to come by and talk to me.
You think teams are going to walk in and he just has blunt wrappers and blunt guts all over the the floor? Chad Kelly. That seems like the type of guy he is.
Keeps it real.
Do you think Kim Dichie will be there hanging out with him? I mean, just waiting to fall out of a window?
Gas mask behind the couch.
That's that Noid.
Is that what I hadn't seen that though. I didn't realize that's what he was doing.
That's what I'd heard. I be honest, I haven't followed up to see if the NFL told him not to do that yet.
As long as it's not breaking any NFL rules, I don't see why the hell you wouldn't just go down there and say, hey, you can talk to me at a Chili's if you want to. I'll be around,
Just hang out in the parking lot of Lucas Oil.
And at this point, the NFL doesn't have any sway over him. They don't control him. He's not one of the union. He doesn't have to do anything like that. So I don't know what they could tell him not to do. He has every right to get a hotel room if he wants to.
He could do whatever he wants. The team, though, I worry I don't know if the team can have contact outside with.
Okay, you're right. You're right. But that could be different.
If they can, why not? Sure. I mean, what Joe Mixon? What the heck does he have to lose right now?
Nothing.
He'd probably show up, and it would be like we talked about in last time's podcast. We'd find out that Mayweather had put him up in the room. Oh God, this is bad. Just everybody get away from the situation.
He was at the Migos concert the other night. up on stage with Russell
Westbrook, right?
Seems like
Trae Young was too.
You aren't a somebody if you weren't on that stage in Oklahoma City.
I don't know if Trae Young can be up there.
That was my first thought when I saw that he was up there. I was like, I wonder how he got those tickets.
And did he get to go backstage? Yeah,
But can they? I guess you can't tell a kid he can't go. I mean, if
he's
he
not a
gets
college
tickets,
kid. That's the thing. It's like it's not really the NCAA. Is it their business at this point?
OU will probably end up going to the Final Four. Trae Young, National Player of the Year, and
Migos
then they'll
launch the investigation.
They'll launch the investigation, and they'll have to vacate all the wins because he was on stage with Migos in 2016.
Worth it
with Andre Robertson and Andre Robertson, Russell Westbrook, and I think Jeremy Grant were up there.
Trae Young deserves to be on that stage over Andre Robertson. I would say.
Come on, dude. Andre Robertson has not missed a three since the All-Star break. He's hit 13
Undefeated.
of his last 14 shots.
How about not deserve? Trae Young's the second most popular basketball player in the state of Oklahoma right now.
No.
Who do you got?
Westbrook,
He's not.
Collison.
You can't put him over any Thunder players.
More popular?
I'd take him over a good portion of the roster. I don't think he's number 2.
Maybe Adams.
Tanner's
though, but
popular. Steven Adams is super popular.
With OU fans, but he's equally as hated by OSU fans or Kansas fans or Texas fans who are in the state.
Kansas fans.
I guess it would mean, do you mean popular or well-known?
I would say popular because it gets them excited about basketball.
He's not more popular than Steven Adams.
Yeah,
he's not.
That's fair.
I couldn't go there.
All right.
Yeah, because your average basketball fan, they probably all recognize every Thunder player.
Yeah. And
if for no other reason than Steven Adams is 7 foot tall, like people are like, you're gonna know who that is. I guarantee a lot of people that consider themselves basketball fans could walk past Trae Young and not know who he was.
I think a lot of people are smart too to say, and even Victor Oladipo. I mean, hell, he does commercials.
It's so weird that Bob Mills
come to my sleep center. I am Victor Oladipo.
Those mattresses obviously aren't very good if he's been sitting out with back spasms for the last 2 weeks.
Taking a shot at Bob Mills there. There goes our podcast sponsorship from
That's
Bob
all right.
Mills.
That's all right. We're Mathis Brothers people anyways.
Oh my
I'm
God.
not a Bob Mills guy. I'm not taking the Bob Mills money. I've tried to shop in there too many times. It's an awful place.
My bar stools are right over there from Bob Mills, custom made. So suck it.
Any furniture store.
Bob Mills, you can be our podcast.
I went to a high school party one time and got kicked out of Rip Mathis' house, and that was when one of my buddies had a minivan at the time. And we parked in the driveway, and to leave, we went straight over the front lawn in the Astrovan.
Eddie, how did you not end up in prison?
I lived in Northwest Oklahoma City. Never been arrested.
Just the lawlessness that you were involved in growing up.
It was actually like we joke about it sometimes how bad we were in high school and how like when say that we were drinking in a parking lot, the cops would come. They'd be like, "Where do you guys go to school? PC North?" Like, all right, you guys just keep it calm over here. Don't do anything stupid. And then they just drive off.
Your cops are different than Norman cops.
My buddy, one of the biggest fall down drunks I've ever known, and guy I don't really see anymore. And he's from a family whose name I'm going to leave out of this conversation, but is well known. We'll put it that way. We were going to the state fair one year, and he is driving, and he's been drinking. I'm not going to even try to sugarcoat it or make it better. We are flying through the parking lot at the state fair. One of the horse cops comes up, stops him, and they're like, "Son," and he starts talking. He's like, "Sir, I haven't been drinking. I go to SNU." That was his rationale, and the cop took it completely.
Wow.
He was like, "Okay, son, go park." There's no way on earth if that cop tests him for a second that he passes. Like, I've never heard of that excuse getting away from anybody until just now, but that worked for my friend too.
Well, talking about being in trouble with the cops,
it's a white
Nice
privilege.
segue.
We do our podcast last week, Friday, right? We did it on Friday last week.
Yeah.
That very next morning,
12 hours.
wake up to the news. The first tweet I saw about it, I had not woken up, or I'd just woken up. It was like 10:30 when it came out about, I think. And it was a Barrett Saleh, I don't know how to say his name, the guy that Bleacher Report fired. That's a bad way, but so he got wind that Baker Mayfield had been arrested in Arkansas, and I was just like, yeah, I could see that. Like, It's like when I was in Arkansas, did something stupid, got arrested. I got to see the details. Like, I want to see the details before I really jumped to any conclusions. So, we put it on the board, whatever. And then they start coming out and you see everything and you're like, okay, well, he ran from a cop. Oh, the cop tackled him. He resisted, the handcuffs and all that stuff. It was very shocking. And I think everybody was very shocked. But it didn't take me long to really come back to, because everybody was so panicked about it. Like, Dean Blevins put some tweet that I actually quote tweeted, and I still feel fine that I did it, even though I don't care if he hates me. But, the whole thing about, this has ruined Baker Mayfield. He's never going to win the Heisman, and OU's doomed, and all this. It was such a massive overreaction. And yet at the same time, you're like, Baker, you're a dumbass for doing it. I'm not surprised that it happened. But come on, this is public intoxication. It's like, I feel like the older I get, the dumber society gets, because I know how this stuff is handled everywhere. I've seen it for almost 20 years now. And it's like, it's public intoxication. And I know, Eddie, you were right there with me. I mean, like the news crews dispatching to Arkansas. And
that for Channel 5 to send a news crew to Fayetteville, Arkansas to cover that is amazing, considering they can't send a news crew to Norman to cover a goddamn football game. I mean, it's unbelievable. It blows my mind. But as a whole, it was bad timing. I mean, obviously bad timing. My biggest deal is
There's
the people
never good time.
No, it's not. And my biggest thing was it makes Bob Stoops look bad. The national media are going to take their shots at Bob Stoops.
Yeah.
Even though I don't see how he's in control of what all 110 of his players do every weekend. I mean, he obviously,
especially your best player.
Yeah. It was more of a I guess just a bad representation of the program.
It's a black eye.
Yeah.
I think the facts of this thing matter, and this is why I don't think it's that big a deal. There was a bar fight that, from the reports from the officer, looks like Baker Mayfield was not involved in, was a bystander. Cop shows up to deal with the bar fight. Right?
By the way, the whole video thing, how much did that add to the insanity
the body
of
slam
it? I mean, that
of a chubby Baker Mayfield.
Some kid steals a guy's tweet. The kid is from Arkansas, wasn't even there, sends it out to ESPN, Bleacher, everybody that would listen. He tried to send it to him and say, "This is Baker Mayfield getting body slammed," and none of that was true. But it caused such an uproar.
Yeah.
Nope. What happened was he wasn't in the fight. The police officer shows up to break up the other fight. Baker Mayfield's extremely drunk from the report, which is what happens at a bar when you're Baker Mayfield, I assume. And the cop ends up tackling the bystander and arresting him. So I don't know. There are drunk idiots everywhere that are going to get arrested for public intox, and I think we've all been in situations, if you drink and go out, where it probably could have happened to you too. The big thing is, to me, there's no violence in there. He didn't fight back. He didn't fight anybody else. He didn't push the cop. The resisting things was him clenching his arms and running away. That's not good. That's immature. But when you're
idiotic, yeah.
When you're really drunk, you do stupid, immature things. And I mean, that's no excuse, but it's just that's why he got arrested for public intox. Keep it in perspective and remember what the actual crime, quote unquote, was.
There's a lot of dumb there. I mean, being Baker Mayfield and going to Arkansas, to Fayetteville, to party out in the public, that's a bad idea.
Dixon Street's
Fayetteville is amazing.
Yeah, Dixon Street's a good time.
I did get kind of some intel about the food part of it.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
So this is passed on to me. I think it's pretty solid information. Was told that Baker and another guy were at a food truck, and they were both getting their orders, and they got the orders mixed up. And so Baker got this other guy's order, and he got his, and he got Baker's. And so as they were walking away, they realized it, and probably being as drunk as they were, they both fell down. And so the food, Baker fell down into his food, opening it up to see, being all surprised, this isn't what and then he fell. And so the other guy fell too, and it broke his glasses. And so Baker's like, dude, I'll pay for your food. I'm sorry. Because, like, I guess Baker knocked him over when he was falling down. And so then he was like, dude, I'll pay for your glass. And the guy was like, I don't care about, the food. Is like, or he didn't say I'll pay for your glasses. He said, I'll pay for your food. I'll get you new food. And the guy was like, I want new glasses. Like, he was mad about his glasses. And so they kind of got into it over that or something. And then, so I think that's who he was yelling at, like when the cop was standing there, because he was like, I'm going to tell the cops, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's where, like, the cursing and but that's the other thing. When a cop he says, stay there, I'm going to interview next, and you're yelling profanities, I mean, that's a bad night.
That's probably the 5th or 6th clue that you're maybe blackout and probably need to go home.
Right.
Yeah. And you're in Arkansas.
It was just the whole thing is just, it basically reminded me of every Friday and Saturday night of my college career.
I guess Kerry has got a point, though.
I got pulled over.
It's Arkansas. It's a little different. They don't like OU over there. If you've
I don't think any of it came in that it was OU. Anything.
No. But I mean, if you're over there and you haven't been there before, you might not realize that you're going to end up being maybe a target. And so if you knock into some guy and you break his glasses, if you're in Norman, the guy might be like, hey man, would you fix my glasses? If you're in Arkansas, the guy might be more snappy and try to puff up a little bit because it's Baker Mayfield, and then you're just going to create more. I don't know. Maybe that's just my perception of going out in general. There's so many dudes out there looking to start a fight, and I don't.
Especially when alcohol's involved.
Exactly. And if you're a guy like Baker Mayfield, you're just going to be a target for those guys. And if you go to a place like Arkansas.
That happened, we can easily say that happened to Jordan Thomas last summer or last offseason.
Yep.
And so basically it comes down to, there's been a lot of talk here in the last, I guess, week of what's going to be his punishment. And I guess I think I'd be surprised if he was suspended.
For a game, I would, yeah.
For a game. I think that they're going to handle it internally, quote unquote, like they always do, and it's going to end up being a big blow of nothing. But I don't know. Is Bob Stoops pressured into a corner to actually suspend him for a game?
I think people are going to have a hard time remembering this even happened by the time the season started.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And I mean, we're closer to the tail end of last season than we are to the beginning of next season.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot more arrests between now and the start of the season. Maybe not Norman, but somewhere in college football.
Okay, so you're saying they're having a meeting right now? Like, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do.
I'm just saying, you wait it out.
We need about 4 or 5 more arrests during the off season, just for public drunkenness. Though. Don't resist and don't run from the cops, but let's go out there and get cited a little bit.
What's the walk-on meeting at 3 for today?
I'm saying someone's
spread around the blame.
Someone's going to steal this news cycle from Baker Mayfield.
Orlando Brown,
guarantee you.
how you feel like taking one for the team?
Josh, was all this on the front page of the Houston Chronicle on Saturday morning?
No, but I couldn't be more with you guys. Like, bottom line is it's public intox. Like, I don't know what you guys were doing in college, but I can go through a pretty good roster of friends and acquaintances that got a public intox. Like, it's college, man. You do stupid crap. Like, I don't know why this is such a big story. I mean, I do. It's Baker Mayfield. I get that. And it's not like it's a sound decision. But, man, these are college guys. I think maybe us being around high school kids and college kids a lot, we kind of like it's easier for us to connect with what we were like when we were that age. Like, we're not that far removed from it, and also we're around these kids all the time. Like, I think people forget once they get in their 40s, like, I wasn't like that. Yes, you were. Yes, you were. Maybe you didn't get caught. Maybe nobody cared that you got a public intox or did, stupid stuff in your, youth. But you did. Like, we all did. It's not that big of a deal. And so, I don't know. Like, I don't. It's one of those things that just baffles me why it's this big of a deal.
I think it's one of those things, like, when I was in college, I never got a DUI. I did some stupid stuff and drove after drinking when I shouldn't have. I look back on it now. Like, today, I don't really drink when I go out just because I don't really feel like I can afford to get like a DUI. Like, that's stupid. And with Uber and everything else now, you don't have to worry about that stuff. And when you go to cities, you can go out, drink, have a good time because you're Ubering from place to place. But, like, we all know probably, I'm assuming, everyone in this room had a buddy, or if you're in a fraternity, that got popped for something. And I guarantee you 90% of all those people that we know turned out to be either really successful people or pretty well adjusted or have good families, be good fathers. I mean, when stuff like that happens in college, it's not always, oh, well, there's something wrong with this kid. He's screwed up. He's going to come, he's going to amount to nothing. Like, rarely did that happen. Just because a guy, if you're in college and like my best friend, he got a DUI. His girlfriend shows up at my apartment, and because she's afraid to call his parents, so I have to call his parents, wait for them to get to Norman, go down to the jail, get him bail. I mean, like, it was a bad night. It was one of the worst nights of his life. That dude lives in a freaking mansion in San Francisco now. I mean, it's not like, it's not like your life is ruined. You do something stupid, it's embarrassing to you and your family, and you learn from it.
I've been in there's no worse position as the friend and being in the you have to call the parents guy.
Yeah.
That is not a good situation.
I mean, you were in a fraternity house. I'm sure you had nights where, like, you come back and you're like, oh, somebody got popped.
I had a buddy. We were living in the Fiji house at the time, and I had a buddy that he was walking home from the bars, decided to take all of his clothes off and go into the fountain in the North Oval.
Oh, my God.
Just so happened a campus cop was walking by. He ran from him.
Naked?
Yeah, they ended up catching up to him, tased him.
Oh, naked tasing.
And, he got arrested and everything like that. But, that was like a small story of everything that has happened. I mean, it happens every weekend, and it just sucks that Baker Mayfield's the face of the program, so obviously he's going to be on the news. He's going to be... And I think that also, too, the resisting arrest part, it's like you can understand a PI happens. The resisting arrest, it's like, wish that wasn't on there because it's just that much more. It just looks that much worse.
And resisting.
Yeah, it looks bad.
Well, and Baker, that's a
when you're talking about arrest, Baylor comes off the tongue very easily.
Baker Mayfield, he did issue a very lengthy apology through social media. I've said this on the radio, so and I said it to you guys after I read it. Like, it was so extensive. At one point, I started reading a paragraph that I thought might be a suicide note. Like, he took it hard. Like, and for him to say, like, I can't be around my teammates right now, I'm ashamed, and to go through his parents and his people he went to high school with, and people that just root for him. And that was the thing for me. Like, I thought people really responded well to the apology, and that just reminds me of how stupid the people were that were giving Joe Mixon advice. If you screw up and you apologize for it and show that it's sincere, people are willing to forgive you.
Yeah,
bingo. Yep. If you can tell that you did something wrong, if you felt getting handcuffed and thought, holy crap, I never thought I was going to get handcuffed in my life. I never want this to happen again. I got to reevaluate things. I got to change. Forces you to apologize. Okay, people can trust that you're not going to do that again. If you don't have that apology, people have no idea. People might think that you thought, they were out to get me. Oh, that's stupid. People have no idea if you're going to change if you don't have the apology.
What'd you think of Barry Trammell's take on stripping him of the captainship?
I don't know. I mean, he's still going to be the captain.
He's
still the guy that everybody looks to. He's still the guy that everybody revolves around on the football field.
And that's not going to change. I mean, I would think that Baker Mayfield is going to go to Big 12 media days down in Dallas in August. I would think that he's going to be still the go-to guy if you need to talk to somebody as far as media-wise. He's still going to be a Heisman contender. I mean, it's not gonna change any of that, I don't think.
If Baker is, sincere, this won't happen again. He might be sincere and have it happen again, but no one's going to believe that you're anything. They're going to start using the phrase Johnny Manziel if you get into any more trouble going into next season, because that's the risk you take when you are that animated on a football field or any sport.
I think that's a great point, Kerry, because this one maybe isn't so bad, but what it does do is it makes the second one, if there is ever a second incident, really bad. Now his his one chance, that just happened, he made a mistake, is over.
It goes from making a mistake to having a problem if it happens again.
Bingo. So he's on thin ice. There's just nothing he can do wrong. He can't get arrested again, or otherwise people are going to start to build a perception of him if they haven't already. By the way, is a quarter suspension is stupid, by the way, right? Does anybody else
any type of
worthless.
Quarter or half is dumb. I mean, look, let's face it. We've seen it. I think it was Jarvis Baxter last year. He was clearly suspended for a play or something, right? Or
yeah, he came in
or
the first series.
Yeah,
he came in the first series. It was like the second play of this first series.
Yeah,
and then he scored a touchdown, which was amazing for a guy that was suspended.
Yeah, so
I knew that was coming.
That'll show him.
I forgot that there was a report that he'd been suspended before that.
And he scored a touchdown.
We've got to be more serious about this. We've got to come up with a term outside of report. If Barry Trammell reports something, it's a report.
Yeah.
If we report something, it's a report. If it's just from whatever, then what do we call that?
A tweet?
Gossip? There was some gossip or
fan gossip?
Yeah, I think that's
murmurs.
Gossip is. There's some fan gossip.
Yeah. And that's not even, I don't mean that as a jibe. It's not anything like that. But it's just, that crap's out there. And, there's so much of it. There's all this talk about, how can people differentiate, real news from people just kind of presenting, whatever they want it to be. I think we have to do our part. We have to do our part to differentiate one thing from another.
Josh, we are having some connection issues with you. I don't know if you're moving around or not.
Josh 2.0 needs to change his batteries.
Oh no! Of course. Can you hear me now? Am I back?
Yeah, you're getting better. You're getting better. Okay.
Okay. Super.
Now you're back to perfect. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things, though. It's kind of like, I see all this stuff with Trump, and I'm not trying to go politics, but it's like, you don't lump BuzzFeed in with NBC News. It's you just don't. And I'm sure that they've got well-paid politically, but it's just you have to know your sources, and it just seems like nobody cares anymore.
You have to build a reputation. You have to earn credibility, and that I think the
problem is people want information regardless if it's credible or not.
100%.
It's hard to fight it.
But the hope is, in the long run, that the credible voices stand out. That ultimately people will.
Well, they will, because the fan people that don't get paid to do it will eventually go away,
and people stop listening to them. If they don't trust, they can't trust your information, then what's the point? Because everybody's going to have information immediately. As soon as information drops, News OK is retweeting it, Tulsa World's retweeting. Everybody across the country will retweet any big news. It's not about who's first. People are going to come back to whoever's credible. I think I've given this soapbox spiel on here a couple times.
No, you need to be first, Joe. You specifically. That's all. That's a new request. No, I'm just kidding.
Pish posh.
Okay, so let's talk about the Combine. We kind of glossed over it a little bit. Pro Day coming. I was kind of pulling up the senior list. I was thinking to myself, okay, so the only guys invited to the. By the way, I just saw a picture of Charles Walker. I almost forgot what he looked like. It's been so long. Charles Walker, if you can call him an Oklahoma player, Dede Westbrook, and Samaje Perine. Of course, Joe Mixon can't be there. But there are other guys that I think are possibilities on this roster that could land an NFL team. I mean, I'm not. I guess it says a lot to me that Jordan Evans wasn't invited. I don't know why. You wouldn't at least take a look at him. I think it says a lot that Ahmad Thomas wasn't invited, but I don't know. I mean, I look at a guy in a position like defensive line, and I wonder, could Jordan Wade sign as a free agent somewhere probably and maybe making him? I mean, he's been so undervalued his entire career at Oklahoma, and we all know that defensive tackles just come out of the middle of nowhere for the most part.
Casey Walker hung around for a few years. I think Stacey McGee's playing a lot in Oakland.
I was just looking it up to see how many tackles Stacey McGee had career at OU, but he is a guy that's you watch a Raiders game, he's their starting. I think for a while he was their leading tackler on the team. I mean, he's a guy that has developed into a very nice or I guess he's developed himself for a very nice career.
You go back a few years, someone like Remy Ayodele wasn't, he didn't do a whole lot at OU, and then he had a great career with the Saints as a undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
Jordan Wade, people forget how good he was in high school. People thought he was one of the kind of more transcendent, just as a football player on the field kind of players in that area when he and P.L. Lindley came out.
I mean, to me, really, like Matt Romar kind of stands out as somebody that could be really under the radar, that could end up having an NFL career. But Josh, I mean, I don't know, what do you think about Jordan Wade, or maybe even like an Austin Roberts could surprise us a little bit and land somewhere.
Got the frame.
Austin Roberts kind of like a Devontae Bond type guy. Just didn't really did he. I guess the Bond did a lot more.
Bond was a lot better, yeah.
I'm a big Jordan Wade fan, and the game I always go back to that I don't think it ever is going to get the notoriety it deserves, but it's Alabama as a redshirt freshman had played very little that year, or, off and on had played through that year, and then plays every snap against probably the best offensive line in college football that year, and played pretty well. He was serviceable, and that's one of those things that I'll never. I don't know. I feel like he's one of those guys
he completely
that just never got his due for whatever reason.
And he just completely disappeared the next year, which I always thought was strange. Like they just didn't play him.
I don't know. Kerry, I mean, and you probably could speak to it better than I did. I always felt like maybe Montgomery just wasn't very high on him. Like, just didn't think much of it. Whether it was, I don't think it wasn't like an off field, because I mean, we all know Wade, winning the Calsu. I mean, he's obviously not Calsu. What am I talking about? Don Key. God. But yeah, so I mean, you have that. So I mean, clearly it wasn't an off-field issue, but it just seemed like Montgomery was never that sold on him. And then once Reynolds shows up, and then Thibodeau this year, it seemed like he was seen as a lot more of instead of just, hey, give Matt Romar a blow, but really was a guy that they felt like could make plays for him.
Yeah, I know Montgomery loved Romar when he came in, so that was kind of his guy. That might have helped push Wade back a little bit for a few years. But he's someone that could do well. What do you think about Ahmad Thomas? Do you think he latches on anywhere? He reminds me of someone maybe like Lindy Holmes, who hung around with the Redskins for a couple of years. Could he do something like that?
I think he's got to have a really good 40 time for that to happen. I mean, he's got to be a 4.4 type guy, and I think he's probably more like a 4.6.
Yeah, might
even be 4.7.
That's still faster than Lindy Holmes. He ran like a 4.8 or something, didn't he?
Yeah, Holmes was not a flyer.
But Holmes had this great tape. Remember how much Lindy Holmes would chase guys down? It was unbelievable.
Fastest guy in pads compared to his 40 time I've ever seen. That discrepancy never made sense.
I remember he had a play at A&M one year where he literally ran. I think it might have been Christine Michael. Like, he ran him down from like 40 yards away.
I think that 2008 year, they gave up like 3 kickoff returns for touchdowns. They were terrible. And I think they would have given up 5 or 6 if it wasn't for Lindy Holmes running down people. I think he ran down Gilliard once, and Gilliard, I think, also had another return in that game for a touchdown.
He was like the anti-Trey Franks.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, the guy that could run on track, but not in football pads.
Exactly. No, I'm not a big. I think we all know I'm not a big buyer on Thomas. I never really have been. And a part of it too is not his fault. Like, he's a big kind of in the box safety is where, to me, he's always seemed like would be his best role, or at least how people are going to want to package him. And that's not really what they're looking for in the NFL. They want a guy who can roam and play space, at the very least covering the flats. And I think if you look back over the last 2 years, when Ahmad Thomas has had trouble, it's usually been when he was in coverage.
The safety you speak of, speaking of OU guys in the draft and stuff, that sounds a lot like what you're describing is Tony Jefferson, who I just thought of it. He's going to get paid this offseason, former OU safety who went through this process, left early, went undrafted, and now he had I think his career year, his best year with the Cardinals last year, and he's looking like somebody who's going to get paid, and he kind of fits that description you're talking about, Josh, somebody who can kind of play all over, up and in the box. And does OU have someone like that on their roster right now? Would the closest person be, would it be Stephen Parker? Would it be Will Sunderland?
Parker's probably the best comp to Tony Jefferson, just because he kind of like Tony has that natural playmaking ability, is not going to test off the charts. I think people always want to make Stephen a more freaky athlete than he is. Stephen's, what makes him special is between his ears. Like, Stephen sees and reads and reacts very quickly, just like Tony. But I bet when he runs, I bet he'll run low 4.6s.
I think Stevens a smoother athlete than Tony Jefferson was.
There's probably truth in that.
I think you undersell him a little bit with his athleticism because just as a playmaker, I mean, even when that secondary was bad early in the year, he was the only guy making plays.
Yeah.
Tony was a little more violent, though, I'd say, than Steven. Tony could lay a lick on a guy.
Tony was a playmaker, too, though. I mean, he was a ball hawk.
I think he had 3 interceptions in
that Ball State game.
Yeah. And then he had 2 against Texas maybe the next week.
Yeah, him not getting drafted was one of the most bizarre things that I've witnessed with an OU player in the draft.
I don't
get it.
It will go down as the biggest head scratcher for sure.
And guys, we all, I mean, and not just, I don't want to put it off like on anybody, everybody, like us, everybody else, like we knew that was a mistake. Well, now I saw an estimate the other day, he may make $9 million in the free agent market this year.
Yep.
Like, I mean, good for Tony, and always, and I don't know about you. I'm pretty sure Kerry and Eddie, you guys had a good relationship with him. I love dealing with Tony when he was a recruit. He was always a good dude to be around.
I had a couple classes with him back then. He's a great guy.
He is he's the definition of, it's like, it's good to see good things happen to that guy.
Yeah.
He deserves
He's a good
all
dude,
of it.
man.
Yep.
He always was. It is a little strange, and I'm hesitant to wonder, like, you always see guys go out to pro day that have no shot, and like just because they're seniors, and I always wonder, like, I don't want to talk shit on anybody, but I mean, like, there are always guys out there just like, bless your heart for being here, good for you.
It's kind of like, I think just the final check off. It's like, I have to do this. What did I just do for the last 5 or 15 years, basically, if I don't deserve it to kind of myself to go perform, I guess.
But I'm always surprised that, like, well, remember Brett Bowers came back like 4 years later.
Yeah, that was a little much. It was like he was almost getting sponsored to be there. Just show up. You don't have to really do anything.
Well, I wanted to say it last week. Good for Connor Knight to not even, you know what? I know this is not where my future is. I'm going to go do something that could be my future.
See, I could see
good for him.
I could see him showing up, next Wednesday anyway, though, just to do it.
Yeah. Just to go through it.
Like, is there any reason, and I'm trying to broach this subject sensitively because it involves one person in particular. Like, is there even a reason for Stan Von Taylor to show up Wednesday?
I almost get the feeling that I saw something.
If I'm Stan Von Taylor, have I not just given up on football?
Yeah, I think he's more focused on getting his degree in May. I think he'll be the first person in his family to graduate.
He will be.
That kind of thing.
You talk about a kid you root for. Stan Vaughn is literally one of my all-time favorites. Stan Vaughn is a freaking great kid.
It's mind-boggling that he did not turn out to be anything to me.
Yeah.
He's one of the few guys, when I do that postseason, kind of re-ranking the seniors, like the 2 stars almost felt like too much. Like, I mean, he really didn't do anything. And why? Because early on, he looked like a guy was going to be a player as a true freshman. I mean, like he looked like he was going to be a guy and then just fell off the map.
I remember when he played as a true freshman, when he entered the game, you could tell he had a different kind of athleticism to him. You thought, okay, that's when you thought that there might be something special about him. That's what's kind of weird about him is he has special tools. It's not like someone who got there and they thought, oh, no, he actually isn't athletic or he isn't fast. I think he had those tools. It just never quite worked out with football.
I still wish they would have tried him at receiver 2 years ago.
Remember how good he was?
At the 5-star?
Yeah, at the 5-star.
And Josh, you even remember some of the receivers that were at that 5-star in Atlanta, that first one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, O.J. Mayo. Or O.J. Howard.
O.J. Howard.
See, I'm totally
he was a standout.
O.J. Mayo was there. There would have been some gun charges.
Totally switched over to NBA mode right now. O.J. Howard was there, but a tight end. But, I mean, still very impressive. But I'm trying to think of, were there other big-time, guys that became like All-Americans at that time?
I'm trying to think through it. I know the running back group. Leonard Fournette was there.
Yeah,
got the Greg Bryant, the kid that was committed to OU at that point.
L.J. Moore was there, and Hartari Bird was there, and D.J. Ward, and
L.J. Moore was
it the Tony?
Don't sleep on that.
Was it the Tony Brown? Was that the kid that went to Alabama that just finished playing for them, or has been really good for them?
He was
as a corner.
He was there. And I want to say that was he committed to Notre Dame?
I think I'm pulling it up as we speak.
When he was there?
Let's see.
Or is that wrong?
I thought maybe he was committed to Texas, or did he switch to Alabama?
Or Tech, maybe? Was it Tech? I forget. I just remember thinking that group was
You know who was there? Laquan Treadwell was there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But the only reason I'm saying that is because,
yeah, Laquan Treadwell was there.
Stanvon Taylor was literally one of the top 5 receivers at that camp. And he was there we brought him in and put him on offense because like we said, there were so many defensive guys that we listed off. Was it Max Brown, the quarterback, there too, along with Tyrone Swoops?
Was Tyrone Swoops there?
Yeah, Tyrone Swoops was in Atlanta.
Yeah, because he was on my flight back to Dallas. I remember that.
Do you know the kid I know was there was old guy that was at Tennessee? Josh Dobbs was there because he came in as a late fill for somebody and wasn't that well known at that point.
Interesting. So Stanvon has had crazy career. Of disappointment, I guess you could say. About probably, to be in state and to stay in school the entire time, and like you said, work towards his degree. That's about all you can really ask for from a kid if he doesn't make it on the field. So he's done a good job with it. Oh, we had
what was that?
I don't know.
no
Sounded
idea.
like a hard drive that was going bad. That was weird. The other guy I wondered, like, maybe just hang him up, champ, is Dakota Austin.
Yeah.
NFL doesn't really have need for 5'7"
I've always thought
corners.
That was interesting. And Josh, I don't even know if this has come up in your discussion with Jordan, but so I thought it was always interesting how OU has handled that situation with Dakota not really playing, or I guess losing his job at the beginning of the year, and then still having his brother committed to Oklahoma.
Yeah, Jordan, the last time we talked at real length was a little while back, and it was, frankly, it was before the season. Jordan, we talked a lot kind of sporadically through the year as he was going through his injury and all of that's going on with him, but I can't help but have a feeling that Oklahoma's looking at some other options, like maybe, hey, if you want to look around, we're going to look around. I just, and it's not even about the injury. Like when I saw Jordan last summer, I thought, okay, this is a talented guy, but man, I'm not seeing many plays being made. It was like exactly the opposite of Dakota. When you watch Dakota, you're like, all this dude does is make plays, but he's 5'7.5". Like you knew it was going to be a problem. Jordan fits the prototype, but every time I've watched him, I just don't see him making a lot of plays. So it's interesting to see how that's going to fold. But if you made me bet if he is or isn't a part of that class come signing day, I would probably say isn't right now.
Well, that's interesting.
Anybody think?
I don't know. I just see that. I don't know, them working in another direction or something. Even when they got Jordan Austin, I got the feeling that was let's see what happens. We're going to watch him develop some. It just seemed like there was a little more kind of that situation where you see an early offer and maybe a guy took it before you expected him to.
Yeah, that was strange. I remember being at the camp when he came down, and Kerry Cooks was really, giving him a lot of attention. And I wouldn't say that there were, like Fields came out. I don't know what I just said there. But you had other guys come out in the invited thing I'm thinking of. They had a lot of good guys come out, but like Austin was out there, Jordan was out there for the regular camp, and there weren't really a whole lot of guys to really compare him to. I don't remember.
At the elite camp?
Not the elite camp, but just the regular camp. The elite camp there certainly was.
Okay.
The regular camp, it just didn't seem like a huge crop of DBs that were out there, at least cover guys.
No, there weren't.
Shaw was out there.
Drake Stoops was one of the best.
Yeah, Drake Stoops was out there.
He was one of the best receivers there.
But it was almost like, I don't want to say pulling teeth, but it was almost like you could tell they were really like, should we offer this kid? And I don't know, Josh, did they wait like till the very end of the camp to offer him, or did they do it right in the middle?
Are we talking about Jordan Austin?
No, we're talking about Jordan Austin, yes.
Jordan was offered, he got offered during the spring practice when he came up for the spring game last spring. Now, they may have been, still evaluating, but he got an offer during that, and that's when he tweeted it out. because he took a bunch of pictures on the field with the team and all that sort of thing. And it was really weird at the time because he hadn't played very much for Lancaster as a sophomore. Yeah. So everybody was kind of waiting to see. So I think that does feed into what you're saying, though, Kerry. Like there was let's see what, like we think he can do it, but let's see. And then he had a junior year cut short by injury, and a pretty serious one at that. So I think there were always going to be a lot of questions. And then you look around at some of the corners that are talking about OU right now. Well, there's some elite guys that have some real interest. So, does Oklahoma say, hey, we're going to stick with Jordan Austin? Or are they going to say, hey, if you want to look around, we'll look around and kind of see, where it leaves all of us?
Cornerback seems like a position where Oklahoma hasn't. I mean, they've had good guys come in. They've recruited some, 4-star guys, but they haven't really cracked a 5-star type, a borderline 5-star type at corner. In my memory, Josh, who do you think's the most talented guy Stoops has brought in at corner?
Since are you talking about Mike or Bob or
recent memory? Like, I'm trying to think of guys that they've went out and like top tier, highly thought of. I mean, Mbonasaur was a 150 guy, like a top 100-ish. Yeah. I'm trying to think of who they've had. Mm-hmm.
Probably Justin Broyles is the highest rated corner they've signed in several years. No, yeah, you know who it probably is, Parrish Cobb.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would almost certainly be the guy. Jordan Parker would be in that. That class really was one of the biggest hits OU's ever had.
They had Trajan Bandy for a second, too.
He'd have been another one, yep. But, I mean, you look at it this year. I mean, there are a lot of guys that seem really interested. I like the Starlin Baldwin kid that they offered here recently. But the reality is Starlin Baldwin's a 3-star kid from Houston. I mean, he's not what you're talking about. And as you look through some of the more elite guys, I think they've got a good shot with Jalen Green, a kid from Houston. The one that's interesting to me and is, kind of in that elite level you're talking about is Brendan Radley-Hiles, the IMG corner that is literally one of TJ Pledger's best friends. Now, the other side of that group of friends is Brian Hightower, who committed to Miami last night. So I don't know how much that's going to mean, but I do get the impression that OU thinks they can get a visit probably from Hightower and Radley-Hiles both, if for no other reason than their friendship with TJ Pledger.
I was going to say Parrish Cobb or like Parrish Rob.
Ooh.
That just happened.
I still say that the hardest person in Waco would be like the 200th hardest person in South Dallas.
South Dallas is scary. I don't like driving out to like Louisiana.
I like it.
I talk about this all the time, man. You go to these small towns, you'll see these dudes, you're like, that dude thinks he's a bad dude. And then I go to South Dallas, I'm like, that dude don't even have to think about it. He knows he's a bad dude. Like or I mean, not just South Dallas. I mean, there's areas of Houston you're like, I don't. Eddie, Sharpstown, buddy.
Sharpstown.
I guarantee you find some bad dudes over there.
Sharpstown, that is the most surreal experience I've ever had. And where did he end? He ended up at A&M, right?
Yep. I think
still down there.
He played this year.
Did
he? He ended up moving down to Reggie Chavis, is the kid we're talking about. Ended up becoming a defensive lineman for them, and actually, I thought, if I'm not mistaken, played pretty well for A&M this year.
Was it Herman Mitchell?
Herman Mitchell was a kid from Spring Westfield that was shot and killed.
Yeah.
Yep. Over a dog.
Jeez.
And funny enough, not funny at all, but a coincidence. The hospital he was taken to and ended up, passing on from was the same hospital that you all were concerned about last week when you thought maybe Tiffany worked at that hospital.
There was an active shooter
where the reported shooting had happened. Ben Taub is not a place. There aren't a lot of nice people hanging out at Ben Taub. Like, that's a serious place.
Man. All right. Well, let's move on to. I know there's some visits coming up. Offers going out. I know the Daily Notes you guys have been keeping track of all the guys and the offers that have been out there, but. Let's just talk, Josh, a little bit about the latest and since last week and kind of guys lining stuff up to come in to see Norman here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think the big one is the one that we led Thursday Notes with, and it's our lead story, I think, on the front page right now, is Asa Martin, the running back from Alabama, Rivals 250 guy that's going to come in this weekend and check out Oklahoma. I'll be honest, before I heard the news of him visiting, I had heard nothing of he and OU having a relationship at all. Oklahoma had seemed very zeroed in on 3 or 4 guys, TJ Pledger, Zamir White, Lorenzo Lingard. Well, Lingard committed to Miami. Zamir White doesn't seem to have any sincere interest in Oklahoma. And TJ Pledger is very high on OU, but I think there's a question for OU if they want 1 or 2 running backs. And this guy could be, one of the others. Keontae Ingram from Carthage being another possibility. So you've got Oklahoma looking at him, and he's going to come in this weekend. I'm going to assume, being an elite guy, was at IMG last year. Oklahoma has probably offered him, and I just didn't get wind of it. That certainly happens sometimes. So you're seeing Oklahoma starting to bring in guys even away from the junior days, even away from spring practices. But really, I don't think you'll see a lot of activity as far as visits, except for guys that probably this is the only time they can make it. If OU's like, well, we got to get you in at some point, then they'll bring these guys in. But for the most part, other than local and regional guys, I think they'll wait for the spring game, where I expect to see Cam Rising. TJ Pledger should be coming to Oklahoma at some point at the end of this month. The last time we spoke, which was about a week or so ago, he wasn't sure on the timeline. So I think, you've got that. Obviously, we kind of talked about it before we went on, but Patrick Fields announcing his decision on Sunday, announced the top 3 of OU, TCU, and Texas. What was that, Monday or Tuesday? Mm-hmm. And I think Oklahoma's in great shape there. So, he's going to announce at the Nike camp on Sunday. Unfortunately, due to some conflicts, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to be there to cover it, but we should have some stuff on Pat Fields. And, again, I think Oklahoma's in a good spot and gets to kind of continue their trend in state where they're really reeling in most of the guys they want within state lines.
By the way, part of those conflicts being that we are going to have Rivals camps once again this year. They're going to be Adidas camps, though. I don't think Nike cares for that much.
3-stripe life.
3-stripe life, 3-stripe camps. We got Dallas. We're all gonna go down to Dallas. We're gonna go to St. Louis as well. So a lot of that stuff coming up, and of course, we blow that stuff out each and every year.
St. Louis one's gonna be really busy this year. It's gonna kind of be like the unexpectedly Kansas City was for us a year ago.
Now I have seen, OU kind of pumping their camps this year. I need to double check into this, but. People are still going to have satellite camps, aren't they, Josh, this year? Or is that still to be determined?
They should. I think what I think is happening is everyone's working under the idea that it's going to be allowed in some capacity. I don't think anybody's doing the Michigan thing and planning 30 or 40 of them, but I think they're expecting at least, if you keep it under 6 or 7, you should be safe.
And OU, they still kept it to what, like 4 last year or 3 even?
Yeah, they usually do 3. They'll do Dallas, 2 in Dallas and 1 in Houston. It's usually been their method.
And then they kind of were doing that one in Tyler a little bit, I think.
Yeah, that's right. They did have kind of an affiliation with it was one of those deals where there was a bunch of schools involved with a couple of them. You're right.
Josh, I'm interested in thinking about the IMG stuff. They're getting TJ Pledger, they're interested there in his teammates. Is there a different kind of animal for OU? Because we're talking about how they run these camps and they're looking for these satellite camps in Texas and Houston. Is going to Florida to a place like IMG that's basically a minor league? It's a JUCO. Is that a different animal for OU? Are they going to be able to kind of tackle that beast, or is this something that they're going to have to be able to kind of change their culture to recruit a place like that?
I think they're equipped to handle it. I really do. And I think IMG is very interesting for Oklahoma and Florida because it's kind of like AAU in basketball. When you get these kids, they've already moved away from home. You don't have to convince them, hey, come to Oklahoma. Like, if they can convince a kid at IMG that they're the best situation for them, they've got a really good chance to get them because, like I said, those kids have already moved away from home. They've kind of, I guess you'd say, peeled that Band-Aid away, and they don't have to have that anxiety of, well, what's it going to be like when I get away from mom and dad and everybody else? They know. So if, again, Oklahoma doesn't have to fight the in-state schools of wherever they're from, these kids are all transplants. So you just get to go in and try to work them. And I think 5 years ago, Oklahoma would have been in over their head at IMG. I think now they understand the lay of the land a lot better. They're a lot more proactive in the areas you have to be because at IMG, if you tell their top wide receiver he's your number one guy, well, probably two of your other top five are going to hear about it pretty quick because they live 2 doors down in the dorms. Like, it's just IMG such a weird and different situation, but I think Oklahoma's got a very good chance to pull a couple of guys out of this, and I think at that point you could see it grow because, I mean, it feels like there's a lot of connection in this IMG group this year, and, if Oklahoma could go and get TJ Pledger, maybe get Curtis Dunlap, well, then Ruben Unuj's in play. I mentioned Brendan Radley Hiles, Brian Hightower, Joshua Moore, the Texas transplant, who had a lot of interest in OU even before he got to IMG. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that could get really interesting, but you need to get those first few guys to kind of make it, okay, IMG guys can go to OU, and it's cool and it's fine.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of the bigger, perception that OU is building now with facilities that we talked about a lot last week. But just, being around the fringe of that college football playoff discussion. I mean, finishing as high as they did, now they got 2 years in a row. I think recruits can now look at Oklahoma and probably need to get kids to visit to confirm it for some, but that Oklahoma is now back among the giants of college football in one of the destination places where you can go from Florida or California or Illinois or wherever.
Yeah, that stuff's cyclical. With every now and then, every time there's these offers that kids can kind of puff their chest out about. I remember for a stretch it was like Miami was a big offer, USC, and Oklahoma I think has worked themselves into an offer where no matter where a kid is, they want to boast that Oklahoma offer because it gives them some credence. And another big year from Baker Mayfield helps. Another year around the college football player for making it helps. Samaje Perine, D.D. Westbrook, those guys doing well in the NFL would help. Because I think that's also another part of it. I think Oklahoma's basically since Adrian Peterson entered the league has had an uptick in the amount of NFL guys they're not only putting in, but guys that are being faces in the league that guys know across the country. Gerald McCoy, guys like that. So I think it's all kind of part of the greater plan that Oklahoma's been going towards of being a, I don't know, for lack of a better word, an it school in the country. I think they are right now. I think they're one of those schools. Maybe Alabama, Clemson, Florida State, and then you're in, OU kind of Ohio State, and then now you're in kind of OU territory.
Some school named Bama is in there too.
Did I say Bama? I don't know. I think aren't they not in the NFL right now?
They're on a different level. For sure.
Just hired Chris Winkie to be a consultant. Took him from IMG.
I got the feeling that he is landing in Alabama because other people kind of felt he was incompetent.
Really? Well, I just knew he was at IMG for a while. I guess he was their assistant coach or some kind of assistant.
He was in the NFL not too long ago. I think he was with the Rams.
Was he?
I think the Rams.
Oh, yeah, he was. He was. He worked with Sam for a year, I think.
Yeah.
It's always been weird to me, too, that IMG's head coach is a guy that absolutely bombed at Tulsa Union.
I've had that conversation with multiple people, and it upset more than a few. You can talk about, they've got all these NFL guys and blah, blah. Yeah, the guy leading the whole charge collapsed, had the worst year in Tulsa Union in, 25, 30 years?
Yeah.
And probably, has good a talent as anybody in the state. Like, there was no reason for him to fall apart the way that team did that year.
It just also proved that anytime you wear a suit on the sidelines in high school football, it's going to end bad for you.
Yeah, that's not a smart thing to do.
The only person that can do that is, I forgot his name now, the head coach at Highland Park.
At least do like Tressel and just wear like a vest with a tie. The whole suit is stupid.
Yeah, unless you're
I
PJ
thought that's
Fleck.
what Wright wore. I thought he did the sweater vest with the tie.
You might be right.
I thought he wore an entire suit.
I could be wrong, Eddie. It's been a while. I don't remember real well, but I thought he was a sweater vest guy.
I think Josh is right. I think it was a sweater vest with a white sweater vest with a red tie.
Gross. You got to win a state championship before you do that.
Well, I mean, you're coming into a state where probably, the now retired, probably best coach in the state, in my opinion, wore shorts in December. So, that's how he rolled.
Gary Rose, the man, though.
That dude's the man.
When you have like 25,000 state championship rings like he has, they just came out of nowhere too this year. That was the most unbelievable thing for Carl Albert to come back and win 5A this year after. I mean, they had some nice players, but that is the definition of a program.
Oh, they're young. They'll be better next year, in my opinion, than they were this year. They've got a young running back that's a really good player.
Wow.
I like that kid that JD's working with right now.
Yeah.
Jason Taylor, yeah, he's a good player. He may get some mention in the scoop tomorrow, actually. So
interesting.
Tease.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody want to throw anything before we get out there? Any grievances to air? Does anyone agree with me that honey mustard is the worst condiment for a sandwich available?
I like honey mustard.
What's wrong with you, dude?
That's about the only condiment that I do like.
It's okay.
Will you put that on a sandwich, or will you just dip stuff into it?
I'll put it on a sandwich. Like I'll get at McAllister's. I think they have a honey mustard type chicken sandwich.
I don't know if I can be in the same car with you anymore.
What does Chick-fil-A sauce count as? Because that's kind of honey mustard.
It's honey mustard with barbecue, but the sweetness is so overriding. I love Chick-fil-A sauce.
Yeah, because I love that. To me, I think
it is weird looking at something that's yellow that tastes like barbecue sauce, though. But they screwed up their barbecue sauce, so I have to do Chick-fil-A sauce.
Polynesian all the way.
All I said today is ranch dressing is overrated. I think in general, ranch
this
dressing.
Podcast is over. Get out of my house.
Joe, I'm there. I'm with you to a little bit. I don't understand the people that dip like their pizza.
It's a religion
ranch,
in Oklahoma. I don't understand it. The people who eat every single
food.
Why
don't you leave then?
I don't like ranch
You're
dressing.
You're not going to worship our God.
And I don't like sweet tea. I'm saying that right now. I don't like ranch dressing.
I don't like sweet tea.
I love
tea.
I like unsweet tea. I was raised on it. Like sun tea.
Mm-hmm.
I like hot tea.
That's my jam.
I don't like any tea other than sweet tea, and I only really like McAllister's sweet tea. Like that's really good, and everything else I've never been much of a tea drinker.
I could drink McAllister's unsweet tea every day, all day.
I'm wondering what else is weird about you now, Eddie.
There's a lot.
Is there anything that you won't eat that most people find pretty normal? Like Curtis Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I'm very picky. I'm not picky like that.
That's crazy. I could put peanut butter on almost anything.
Seriously. I haven't had peanut butter in a very long time. Like when you go to the 7-Elevens around here now they have like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I always want to get one of those just to eat it.
Oh, that kind of goes against my number one rule. You don't eat it. So I can't eat at 7-Eleven. Like their food.
It's getting better.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
I had a chicken salad sandwich from a gas station once.
That sounds like
I do that all the time. I do that all the time.
I asked the guy even. I said, "All right, I'm starving, and I want like an actual food. I want something I can pick up and grab and eat, not just M&Ms. Anything on this rack where all the sandwiches were, any of this kind of good?" And he says, "Chicken sandwich isn't bad." Which I probably should have taken right then is, okay, well, it's all bad.
That's a hell of a sales pitch.
I mean, I'm not going to be eating sushi from a gas station, but I love a good, like the On Q. Their sandwiches are delightful.
See, that's a step up in my gas station hierarchy. Like
we don't have Quick Trips in Oklahoma City.
Yeah,
so.
That's true.
Buc-ee's down here makes a truly fine sandwich. Like I've got no problem going there. Like there are days where I'm like, I want that sandwich. I'm going to go to Buc-ee's and get a little, and it's just like deli meat and cheese. Like there's nothing special about it, but it is really good.
Hey, guess what, Loves? If you want to sponsor our podcast, we will never talk about any of these establishments again. Get on that, Gabe.
I've always been a Loves guy, anyways.
I do like Loves, actually. Yeah.
I used to like it when Loves had their own sandwich shop. Like before they started putting Subways in there. By the way, did you see the report that they found that Subway has less than 50% of chicken in their chicken?
Oh, imagine that.
I heard a story once. That makes sense. I walked into a Subway once, and I literally overheard the coworker saying, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to get the roast beef. We don't have any other thing that's real meat here." And so then they turned to me and said, "Okay, what do you want?" I said,
I have.
Take the roast beef, I guess.
Is real.
I'll take the roast
This
beef.
is a fact. I haven't eaten at a Subway since Jared was arrested. Fact.
I don't think I have either.
It just every time I go there now, it's like,
That's crazy. I was thinking about. I haven't gone there either. And I was thinking
Their
about hitting
cookies,
it
their
on this
chocolate chip
podcast.
cookies are delightful, though.
I
Did you see the top 50
yes,
list of
I was just getting
Ringer
ready to
foods?
say that is the worst list I've ever seen.
What is it?
Number one was waffle fries from Chick-fil-A.
It was the top 50
If those-
items from fast food restaurants.
I have to eat the waffle fries before I get home because if they're not piping hot, those things are trash.
Yeah, they'll turn rock hard.
Well, for Whataburger to only have one thing, and it was the honey butter chicken
HBCD.
biscuit
Yeah, I know.
at 39, that's just a slap in the face.
And Shake Shack is not fast food.
I could agree with that.
Neither In-N-Out is fast food. Chipotle is not fast food.
I could agree
And
with that.
there's no way that Chipotle tacos are better than the Qdoba. What are those knockout tacos or whatever
Those
they
are
call them? Those are
I
fantastic.
don't think I've had those.
The nachos
Oh.
at Qdoba. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, I have.
You got to get the
They
altitude.
put the bacon in
Yeah.
it.
The altitude.
I don't
of the
think I've ever eaten at
nachos.
Qdoba.
They get so high, they pile that thing.
Next time you're in Norman, we'll go to Headington Hall. They have a Qdoba in the bottom.
Yeah, we've had a
Oh.
scoop lunch there.
We need to pass this part of the podcast around for sponsors. I feel like Qdoba and Loves
we're
would love this.
we're whores. We're sluts.
Love,
You want to sponsor us? We won't talk about anything but your restaurant
Loves
or,
and Fuzzies. Great
and
places.
or gas station.
Like
I could wax poetic on Johnny's for at least 30 minutes every podcast, so I'm all good with that.
We'll talk to Rick Haynes. We'll get some Johnnies in here.
Why don't you get on that then?
We need to. I saw his Cox commercial the other day.
I did too. Have they put in anything new at where West left, where Nana's or Nona's used to be?
No, I don't think so. I haven't seen anything yet on that.
That's not there anymore?
West is still on Western, but
Okay.
They made a Bricktown location.
yeah, and it was where Nona's is, like across the street from the ballpark, and it closed. I actually went to a wedding party there, and then like 2 weeks later, it
They
was
need to make
closed.
that into two restaurants.
Yeah, it's a
It's
big
too big.
space. It's a
That
big
tells you how
space.
far out of the loop I am in Oklahoma City and the restaurants anymore. Like I didn't know anything other than Nona. I thought Nona's was still there.
Yeah,
So
no.
that tells you how far behind I am.
It's a big league city, evolving.
It's crazy. Every time I come back, there's some new restaurant. My buddy's like, "You got to try this place," and we have to go over there and eat. And there's some awesome new places, man. I wish it had been there when I was there.
Revolve's breakfast pizza is fantastic.
I've yet to be gone there, but my parents like it. It's up by their
It's
house
very good, yeah.
on Memorial.
breakfast pizza in general is awesome. Screen Door in Norman has really good breakfast pizza.
Do they? I need to check that place
Where's
out.
that at?
I don't know where it's at.
It's where the chili place, the new one that opened right on Main.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. I do.
that you knew was doomed from the
Oh,
beginning.
yeah. That's what that is
like,
now.
no matter how much that those chili conies were, or how good they were, I knew that place was going to fail because it was a massive restaurant, and there was nobody in there ever.
No. That's just it's one of those buildings that is like kind of it's been hexed. Anything that goes in there is bound to fail.
Also, Nosh up in Moore is really good.
I've heard
And
of
I've
it.
heard that the Ricky's Mexican place up there, in that parking lot right by Whataburger, I've heard
Yeah.
that's really good. The Mexican in Norman's kind of taken a downturn. The loss of Tulio's has really affected me deeply.
Yeah, I mean, Tara's is still there.
I'm not a huge Tara's fan. I like Mama Vecha.
Yeah.
I will not go to Ted's unless it's the original Ted's.
Have you been to Los Dos Amigos?
That new Puebla place is trash.
Where's that
I
at?
don't think I've been there.
It's right by the garage. It just opened.
Oh, okay. On Main Street.
I don't like it.
So they're not going to be our next sponsor.
Bison Witches, if you just stop putting honey mustard on your corned beef sandwiches, you could be our sponsor.
The Bison Witch bread bowl used to be a pretty big
I still
deal.
get it about once a week.
Really? Mm-hmm. It's pretty good.
I don't think I've ever been to Bison Witches.
My God, you hippie. All right, that's going to do it for this podcast. I think we've terrorized you enough with our thoughts on food. Thanks to all you guys. Once again, great job, great effort.
Don't
Good job, good effort.
don't schedule or don't book your rooms yet in Omaha, but maybe
Yeah.
put it
Things
on the
looking
back.
pretty good, huh?
Put it on the back burner.
Yeah.
That's
How's Kyler Murray looked out there?
good. He's getting on base at a pretty good rate, and it seems like anytime he gets on base, he automatically
Josh quit.
he automatically is a guy that can become a base stealer.
We started talking baseball and Josh quit.
I figured this would keep him around. He might want to keep him on his keeper fantasy team.
He's saying he lost us for some reason. I'm putting in air quotes. Should we get him back on real quick?
We can redial him up. I'll fill this time with OU baseball. Off to a 9-1 start, and they've actually played pretty well. They're not doing anything crazy. They're beating teams that they should. So I think that would probably be the biggest thing. But they're hitting the ball well. Austin O'Brien's producing. Jack Flansburgh's producing. Everybody's producing offensively. They're I think they're number one in the conference right now with a .321 batting average. Even though, again, they're not playing teams that are just crazy good. So it will be interesting. And the internet just went out. So I was.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay. Cool.
So show's over.
Okay.
All right.
This was fun.
Contact me on the board if you have
Cox
any.
Communications, you can't be a sponsor now.
Contact me on the board if you have any more baseball questions.
If we want to rail on Cox, I will definitely do that.
I don't care because I got to pay like $300 a month.
Yeah, because that's how much they effing charge. They have a monopoly on the market. I tried to get AT&T out, but my entire street's covered in trees, and so they couldn't put a dish up. And there's no fiber that runs out there, so I'm stuck with freaking Cox. I don't want to deal with it.
If you go back far enough in my tweets, I think in college I challenged Dave Bialis to a cage match.
He's gone now. He went somewhere else. Yeah.
Oh, really? Well, that's why he never got back to me.
Yeah, that could be. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks to Josh. Our internet is out, so we cannot reconnect with him. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Eddie Radosevich. Thank you, Joe Duvall. And we will see you guys next time on another edition of the Unofficial 40 Podcast.